Welcome to the sixth edition of TSDSI Tech Deep Dive Conference. Namaste, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching the session from whichever part of the world you are in. My name is Jaskirat Singh and I am your host for today's proceedings of the TTD 2023 conference. Before we start, here are a few hygiene announcements. Next slide, please. The conference is in hybrid mode. If you are attending our conference online and have any questions for the speakers, please type them in the Q&A or questions tabs in the AirMeet tool. The conference is being recorded and will be posted on the TSDSI website within the next few days. Speakers are requested to kindly deliver your presentations within the allotted time durations. Next slide. We will begin with the session on global standards development role of TSDSI. So before we begin, let me introduce you to the convener of today's proceedings, Ms. Bindu Srivastava. Ms. Bindu Srivastava is currently the Director, Marcom and Partner Relations at Telecommunication Standards Development Society, India. She also serves as the Marcom Chair at 1M2M. Over to you, Bindu ma'am.
Thank you very much, Jaskirat. A very warm welcome to this session. I would like to give a small context to this session. As 5G services launched in October 22 in India getting rolled out, our research and development community, academia, technology startups, and industry are gearing up for the next G, which is the 6G, also known as IMT 2030 at ITU. This is expected to be available in 2030. India has made significant contributions to the development of global 5G standards through TSDSI. We are presently engaged in technical studies covering a wide range of subjects related to 6G technologies. TSDSI and our members have made significant contributions to the IMT 2030 framework that has recently been approved as a draft new recommendation by ITUR SG5. Being a sector member of ITU, we facilitate contributions to the study groups of ITUR and ITUT. TSDSI is one of the 7 organizational partners of 3GPP, the global partnership project where specifications for telecom spanning access, core, and service capabilities are developed. Our members contributed to the development of 5G specifications at 3GPP and are now actively engaged in development of beyond 5G technologies in Release 18 and 19. TSDSI is also a partner of 1M2M, the global standardization initiative for development of standards that enable interoperable, secure, and simple to deploy services for the IoT ecosystem. We also have partnership agreements with several international standards forums to collaborate in development of globally harmonized standards. TSDSI is executing various initiatives to promote deeper engagement of the Indian technology community, including research, academia, and startups in standards development. This session will provide the participants with an overview of the technical standards and reports that have been published by TSDSI, our current technical activities, our engagement with global standards forums, and work plans of the ITU, 3GPP, and 1M2M. It will also describe the standards development processes followed at TSDSI. Since this conference is about 6G horizons, converging technologies for a connected society, we will begin the session with an overview of the Bharat 6G vision, which will set the direction for our research and standards development activities. I would now like to invite the speakers of this session to the dais. May I invite Mr. R.K. Pathak, Director General of Bharat 6G Alliance, to please join us on the dais. Can we have an introduction to Mr. Pathak, please, on the screen? Next screen, please. Yeah. So Mr. Pathak is currently, he doesn't need any introduction, but still, Mr. Pathak is currently serving as a Director General of Bharat 6G Alliance. He is recognized for his exceptional contributions to indigenous manufacturing, technological innovation, and global collaborations. He was instrumental in setting up the Telecommunication Standards Development Society India, driving technology standards and innovation. Thank you very much, Mr. Pathak, for joining us. I would now like to invite Mr. A.K. Mittal to the dais. Can we have his introduction to the on the screen, please? Mr. Mittal is currently serving as the advisor networks at TSDSI. He also does not need any introduction. He has previously served as a senior deputy director general at TEC, and he played a key role in formulation of TSDSI and defining our IPR policy, rules and regulations. He's been driving the networks-related standards development activities at TSDSI. I would also like to invite Mr. Vijay Madan to the dais. Mr. Vijay Madan is currently serving as advisor and mentor for services and solutions activities at TSDSI. He's previously served in various capacities, starting with DOT, CDOT, Tata Teleservices Limited, and he's well known as a mentor for several people attending this conference, both in person and online. Thank you very much, sirs, for joining us. I would now like to invite Mr. Pathak to give us an overview of the Bharat 6G Alliance. Over to you, Mr. Pathak.
Namaste. I think we have some online, so I will say good morning, evening, afternoon also. Yeah. So welcome to this conference, and that is all related that what India should do as a country. So I think Bindu has already introduced that I represent here Bharat 6G Alliance. When I was coming, then people are asking that what is 6G? Are some 60 test beds are being set up? So what do you mean by that? So I could not answer properly. But why I am saying so, that this is, I think, the right time. For the first time, this country as a India has started these initiatives. What is XYZ generation of technology? Let me set the context. I have PPT, but that you can just go through, no issue. Can you just have the first PPT? So because people are aware. So in 2017, we started, there was a forum called High Level Forum for India 2020. I happens to be the member secretary. When it started working, then for first time there were 3 secretaries to the government of India, and academia, 5 directors of IITs, ISC, and some international experts. And first time I think we did lot of due diligence that what is all required for a country to become innovator. Then after 1 year in August 2018, we came up with the report, and the name of the report was Making India 5G Ready. So it was not India 2020 or something related to 5G. What was discovered that for any country to take the lead in technology, they have to work at least 10 years in advance. At that time, we were very late. So it means for any technology, nothing to do with the generations. So we have to start at least 10 to 11 years in advance, thinking on those that what are the various ingredients required for a country to be a technology developer, a provider and champion. So it's not that you just with the help of mere R&D or in one direction and you just say that I will make this initiatives for the country. It's not possible. So this time, so at that time, because I think I'm referring to because they are very much important, this time we set up this technology innovation group, and that was on 6G, and I happens to be again the member secretary, so I'm thankful to the government. And we set up 6 task forces this time. So they were based on our experience of making India 5G ready. So it is spectrum policy, which is very much important, though I have mentioned here third place. First is the access network. Another one can say CP and other devices. Third is again the spectrum, which is I think it should be in the first place. And use case is the fourth, international standards, and then come the financing. That is most important. In making India 5G, why I'm again bringing the reference, because they are important ingredients for any technology you may say, and we are discussing here 5G. 5G is nothing to do with 5G or wireless, which is called IMT 2020 or 2030. There are related technologies. So we have to work on all those related technology. It will be because on 3 days I have been a part online. I realized that quantum was also there, AI was there. Someone is saying native AI. It means there are so many channels, and we have to work on all the technologies simultaneously. So we should not miss any of them for a country. So at that time, spectrum was the most important. Then was the regulatory aspect. Regulatory, right now we have not mentioned, but I think as a government, India has to take certain actions on regulatory front also, because without making those policy enabling, you can't uh, do anything on that technology. You can't reap the benefit. And one of the why I'm coming, because today 5G in India, whatever we are using, is a evolution part of 5G, and that was not just ever intended to, because that's I'm getting 10 times 100 times speed. That is a natural 4G to 5G, and I'm very pleased that I have the 5G phone, so I'm getting. Entire purpose was the two more its compute. So it was the connectivity we are getting. Use case, still we don't have a clear application. So we have to work use case, and it's very difficult for departments, ministries, or other verticals to satisfy that why they have to work on use cases, because I think they have been just thinking that telecommunication happens. They used to do this. So TSPs they won't do, but naturally their entire economics will depend on that how the use case developed across the globe, and this is the right moment for the India to take the lead and be global. So these are the I think task forces. Based on the task forces, next slide please. So I think here also again I have mentioned the same thing, that we have a large R&D funding. So Department of Telecommunication is presently having two funds. One is more than 500 crores per annum, that is USOF TTDF, we call it Telecom Technology Development Fund. Another is a fund called Digital Communication Innovation Square, that is for startup and MSMEs, and it's both are doing good. So these funds are available for startups, academia, industry, big industry, all to set up this. And these are the other initiatives like Indian Chipset Mission, Semicon Policy, and PLI schemes. So as a government has taken a lot of steps for the promotion of technology, development of technology, and TSDSI has a important role in this technology. In fact, earlier its bylaws was saying telecommunication. So we happens to amend it, I think last year, if I'm right. So it was digital communication. So it is a message for TSDSI also that you should not just think telecom. You are now digital communication, your bylaws say. So you should expand in all the fields, whether it's quantum. So quantum mission has been set up. So you have a lot of role, and you please work with all the stakeholders of quantum. So you should not feel that there should be another standard organization should come in India. Next. With the help of those 6 task forces, we came up with the vision statement. I know this vision is has been discussing 3 days, but what is important is that the 3 important points are affordable for a country like India or Bharat. Once I say Bharat, I mean here I mean, equal opportunities to entire population. So I will say that even village also get the same treatment which we get services in the cities. So affordable, sustainable, and ubiquitous. And I'm happy that with the help of Indian our stakeholders, these requirements are now part of uh, this IMT 2030. So I thank entire those who are present here and those are outside. And now we have to work on how to fulfill those requirements. There can be a number of methods for achieving the same. In fact, I was just going through so many webinars in 2 3 days. So I realized that for achieving the same requirement of affordable or ubiquitous or coverage, so there are so many competing technology, and naturally we have to work in next 2 3 years in evaluation of technology part. Next. As far as government is concerned, so for the achieving the objectives, they set up Bharat 6G mission. This is within Department of Telecommunication, and it's headed by there is a Apex Council headed by Honorable Minister, and it has almost all the departments, ministries as a part of Apex Council to take the decisions. You can say space principal scientific advisor is there, this security verticals, MIB, MIT, so all are there. But there are certain 4 or 5 representatives other than the chairman TSDSI and chairman COI. They will come from a forum called Bharat 6G Alliance. So I'm just giving you the birth, what is the role of Bharat 6G Alliance. So that Apex Council has mentioned that there will be 4 members from the R&D, from the it's I think academia, I don't remember. R&D is there, startup is there, industry is there, because TSP is already represented through TSDS COI, and standard automatically is going there with the chairman TSDSI. So whatever as a country we have to do, that all recommendations will come from a forum Bharat 6G Alliance. So I'm just clearing this because people feel that we will be doing standard. No, it's not. Standard is a domain of TSDSI or other bodies. It will be just making recommendations that what are the various, as I told, that actions to be taken by the government for bringing this technology to India. Or it may be the funding can be the one part, so many regulations will be another part. How to work together, because there are funding in silos, or there are so many already schemes going on, how best we can utilize. So all the actions which DOT as or a government has to take will be recommended by Bharat 6G Alliance. Next. I think these are the objectives, so I'm not going through it because I think what is important that, as I told that when we came in 2018 making India 5G ready, so this time by 2028, we should be ready with the world, our own, we should do the pilots, such that whatever is the candidate technology for 6G, so I think very well we should have some 6G lab and its prototype, so that we can demonstrate to the world and take up our startups or our innovations to the world. Once it's come the spectrum, so that is a infrastructure for any wireless, and it's very important that we take our decisions, actions at least 10 years in advance. So if you are just, I think, unable to take a decisions, then I'm sure that whatever you do, you won't be a champion. So I'm sure that I think that will be our duty to work with the concerned departments, units within the government, such that they have a clear identification of spectrum. So in the task force on spectrum, there is 3 announce. Announce is the word we have given in recommendations. That is already, I think there is clarity, you announce it. I think the another is that you work with academia, startups and others, or you identify, and then there is a third bucket also. Sir, what will be that? Announce, identify, and one third I am just forgetting. So why I am saying so? that any country, people say that the country who have been the champion or innovators are those countries who have a startup ecosystem are the companies who are doing R&D. So you take the case of Ericsson and Nokia from Europe or US, other companies are there, or China or Japan. So it means India also we need such, he can be startup, it can be big company, but they have to champion and work with the government such that from the very beginning we have clarity that these are the various spectrum on which and they have to work that let us develop certain equipment in this band and then take it to concern like WRC or maybe 5D or wherever we have to go. Okay, that India has developed this technology and this standard, this recommendation should be part of those 6G or so-called 6G standards. Next. So these are the two phases defined. So right now we are in the phase one. Phase one is like ideation phase, in which I think I may say something and next day I will change because I then realize that no, I think this is not the best way to achieve it. So the first, these are the learning phase we call it. And so that's what I am saying. Though there are a lot of recommendations in the 5G vision statement, but with the help of, based on the consultation process with the industry, the Bharat 6G Alliance or Bharat 6G mission, they have to change and do the course correction. How to achieve our objectives which have been defined: ultimate, affordable, sustainable and ubiquity. So for achieving that, what are the various actions? So that is the first phase, phase one of 2 years. And in this phase, we have to bring all the ingredients on a plate. And then in phase two will be the actual implementation. Then when we should have certain pilots, it can be in a different, maybe suppose I think Samir is working already. Samir and is working on terahertz 6G testbed and IIT Madras led consortium on optical, advanced optical. So I think these are the just two, but I think maybe 5-6 more labs are coming in offering academic institutions, or maybe so many in the private. Like even yesterday there was a announcement of Nokia 6G testbed, and I think even Ericsson is working with IIT Madras on some of the aspect. So why I'm saying so that we have to keep in mind that industry has to work closely with the government in achieving our objective of by 2028 having the pilots in India. Otherwise, if again we miss something, then we'll be lagging behind and we won't be technology innovator but adopter. Next. So I think this I have already covered that Bharat 6G Alliance will work along with Department of Telecommunication or maybe some all other ministries, because there will be so many efforts will be required to bring them closer. Otherwise, I think all are working on some technology, but they are not talking to each other. So these are the various, so on the new technology, it can be something which even we are not sure. So these are the various things which I realized that they were all covered in by the experts in their own ways. Next, please. And this is my last slide because I think I am time. So Bharat 6G Alliance, this has been defined by Department of Telecommunications, Bharat 6G mission document. So they say that it will be a domestic industry, academia, national research institutions, and standard organization facilitated by the government. So this is the statement of Bharat 6G mission. And that's why this Bharat 6G Alliance get the power from that. And I just happy to say that Bharat 6G Alliance is now registered, have PAN number. In fact, I got the GST also yesterday. So it's now a reality. Otherwise, it was just a paperwork. And other things are written that to help grow 5G advance and 6G. So we are very much aware that 6G will come 2030, or someone was saying, what is 6G, asking me question. So I'm aware that 6G is not today, but I think we have to work on 5G advance, and more important, a number of connected technologies. So it's nothing to do with 6G alone. So AI, quantum, my most different versions, I think cloud, maybe so many efforts will be required. So all we have to work together for achieving that. And these statements are just that we will bring together the startups, and naturally in this process lot of support from industry and TSDSI will be required, because whatever is the outcome we are thinking has to be implemented through TSDSI wherever relevant. Maybe some we have to work with some other standard organization as well, and build coalition with like-minded 6G global alliances. And again, we had our first MOU with NextG Alliance on 31st of August this year, and that was announced in the joint statement of Honorable PM and President of USA on 8th September. So that we have achieved. What is more important is that Bharat 6G Alliance has a founding members and governing council, and we have constituted the 7 working groups on spectrum, device, sensors and manufacturing ecosystem, technology, applications, green and sustainability, outreach, and 6G use case revenue stream. Why I am reading? Otherwise, I never read mostly my PPTs, because they are very much important. There was a talk that if you don't create revenue, then why as a TSP I should invest? So it means that once you are developing the technology, then we should keep in mind that there has to be a revenue stream, such that there has to be some investment by interested parties. And as I told in the beginning itself, that in the 5G, still we don't have such killer applications other than the conventional connectivity. Whereas I think we have to work on compute part for getting the collaborations, because till you bring compute and you do compute, connectivity compute, then only you get so many use cases. So right now I think we are thinking in a 4G way, and you are not utilizing most of the uh, revolution part of 5G. So it's okay. So I would like to thank Bindu, because I think she was instrumental in bringing me here, an entire TSDSI family. In fact, I have been the part of TSDSI since inception, and some other institutions of R&D families like TCU India. So thank you, Bindu, and thanks A.K. Mittal sir and Madan sir. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pathak, for that very detailed explanation, description of the journey of the formation of Bharat 6G Alliance, and especially of the mission mode in which the policy has been defined for us to contribute to 6G standards. With this context, I would now like to invite Mr. Mittal and Mr. Madan to talk about the technical activities at TSDSI and a standardization roadmap, and demonstrate how we are on the same journey for and on road for contributing to global standards on 5G and beyond and 6G. Over to you, Mr. Mittal and Mr. Madan.
Hello. So thank you, Bindu, and thank you, Mr. Pathak. Greetings to all present here and those who are online. Mr. Pathak actually gave so much food for thought for all of us at how we should proceed, what lies ahead of us for doing work in 6G, much better than what we could do in 5G. So this presentation is basically not on deep on thought, but deep on information that how TSDSI can help to carry forward the dreams of researchers and other organizations to participate effectively in the global standards or the standardization nationally and globally. So I will be, how much time is left, Bindu, for us? About
20 minutes.
Okay. So, lots of delegates who are here or online may know a lot of things what we are going to say now. So kindly bear with us. So next slide, please. Yeah, next. Yeah. So TSDSI is an autonomous organization registered as a society in 2014, and we develop standards for ICT in India, and now we call it digital communication standards. Mr. Pathak rightly pointed out, we amended our rules for that. It was written telecom. We made it digital telecommunications and ICT, and we work on the principles of consensus, fairness, and transparency. And we provide level playing field to our members. Next slide, please. So this is the membership horizon what we have. So anybody, any organization doing anything in IT and telecom and the user industry organizations, everybody can become our members. There are different categories. I will not go into their detail. And we have currently our members, we have members from all these categories with us. Next slide, please. So this is an organizational structure. This is important to understand from the point of view that how we do standards work and how it is governed. So we have a governing or the general body, and then under that there is a governing council. The general body appoints a governing council. So this chair is Mr. N.G. Subramaniam from TCS. Now the vice chair is Mr. Suresh Chituri, who is here from Samsung, and treasurer is I can't read it from here. Yeah, Rajesh Sharma, yeah. So from DOT. Now the next important part is that technical groups, they are the core of TSDSI activities. So there are two study groups. One is study group networks, other is study group services and solutions. So as the name suggests, the network side works on the network aspects of telecommunications, and services and solutions on services aspects, architecture of the services, and security, applications. All those aspects is done by the study group services and solutions. And below the general body and this governing council, we have secretariat. But then the work of governing council is partially shared by number of standing committees whose names are written. So we have IPR and legal committee. We have outreach, roadmap, standardization committee. So all these committees are there who assist the governing council to carry out works in various domains. And secretary is headed by Director General. So Mr. N. Mohan Ram is here as DG. And then there are three main verticals. One technical activities, other is operations, other is Marcom and international relations. Next slide, please. So as Bindu talked initially that we have partnerships and affiliations. So no standards body can work without collaboration with global bodies. So we have a big list of organizations with whom we have MOUs for collaboration. And the three major ones are 3GPP. We will go into more detail later. 1M2M and GSC. This list I am not going to go through. Next slide, please. Now the partnership, the major partnership where the work on standards is done are 3GPP, ITU and 1M2M where we are associated. So 3GPP is an organization which does the global mobile standards, and we are an organizational partner of 3GPP, and our members can become individual members of 3GPP by paying a fee. Separate fee is required. So currently we have, it's now 55 years old, now we have 59 IMs currently registered with 3GPP, and the technical work is done by the IMs there. ITU, we are a sector member of ITU T and ITU R. You will know more about ITU's category, ITU verticals later in the presentation. And our members can participate in all the groups of ITU R and ITU T without any extra fee. And 1M2M does, as Bindu also mentioned earlier, 1M2M does the service layer standards for IoT services part. And there also we have now 58 IMs, and IMs can, as per our current policy, they can join free of cost and contribute to the standards there. Next slide, please. Now, yes, this is also important to know that what kinds of standardization we do. One is that organic standards. For example, we develop our own standards. We did, for example, CPRI front haul, we did now cloud interoperability standards, and some more are in the pipeline. And we do standards through transposition. So we are members of 3GPP and 1M2M, and they are basically consortia and non-legal entity. our members go there and create standards. So we transpose those standards and call them our own standards. Of course, this is joint ownership of all the partners, organizational partners of these organizations. And third one is adoption. So these adoption is done normally for those organizations where we are not actually members of those organizations, but they develop and we find, our members find that they are relevant for India, for use in India. Those standards are brought. And we have currently 2 agreements, one with IEEE SA and one with ATSC for adoption of agreements. And recently we adopted ATSC 3.0 as a IP-based broadcast standard. It is published already on our website. And lots of transpose standards of 3GPP are also published on our website. Next slide, please. So every SDO has to have an IPR policy, intellectual property right policy, which requires its members to commit that they will grant licenses for the IPRs which they own in the standards. So there is a particular format. Rest of the things about negotiation of IPRs, etc., is not in the scope of IPR policy. And normally, in case of 3GPP and 1M2M, the IPR policies of all the partners are similar because the people work across the globe on same standard. So it's a big subject. I will only briefly touch upon this here. Next slide, please. So we have to go a little more detail here how the standards are developed. What is the life cycle of standards? So there are 3 segments to this. One is pre-standards, the middle one is standards, and third one is the post-standards. And we will go into detail of each one of them in the next slide. So the first part, which was the pre-standards. So pre-standard is something which culminates into an idea for doing a technical study or creating a technical standard. And all that happens normally outside TSDSI or in TSDSI with the involvement of members and even non-members, so that we mature an idea to the stage where it can be brought to a standards body. So here the white papers of different forums outside TSDSI, industry forums, research institutions or global standards bodies, so many inputs can keep on coming. They are available into the overall ecosystem. So those can become inputs, and ultimately they are brought into the system or TSDS system by the members. But the inputs are coming from the companies themselves or emerging from the requirements from different industry segments across the world, and so and so. And then we have a roadmap activity, that we have a roadmap committee, as you saw in the governing council constitution. That roadmap committee is responsible for collating ideas from across the spectrum of industries within TSDS and outside, and see which are the ideas which are emerging as use cases or as technologies which can be supported by our members for standards work, and then those are listed and they become a roadmap item. Next slide, please. And result of that is that the members, when they find themselves comfortable or they find it useful or important, they bring a new item proposal into the study groups. So as you saw in the previous slide, there was a NIP, a resultant or the output of all those pre-standards activity was a new item proposal. So when a new item proposals comes in, what happens? It can be relevant either to a study group networks or study group services and solutions in the TSDSI context. So there, at the stage of introduction of this proposal, it is identified whether we will do a study first and go for standards later, or we do a state as a standard. So after that one is decided, study group meetings, they deliberate on this, members contribute, every member is free to contribute on any topic of discussion happening. And then it comes out as a TSDSI report or a standard. And if it's a standard, then our rules also provide that we send it to TEC, Department of Telecom, for consideration and adoption as a national standard. Reports remain as reports. They are published on our website. Standards are also published on our website as TSDSI standards. But once TEC adopts them, TEC designates them as national standards. Then the second type of standardization which we referred was by transposition or by adoption. So in TSDSI, when such 3GPP or ITU standards, they are adopted or they are transposed, then they are also taken to the study groups. They are also the members. So at the stage of, I just forgot to mention, at the stage of standard development, the members are actually expected voluntarily to declare their IPRs to TSDSI, which are then hosted on the TSDSI website. We have number of IPRs declared, which are hosted on our website for different standards. So those IPRs, they are declared, and these 3PP and 1M2M standards, once transposed and approved by the general body, they become TSDSI standards. We send it to TEC for adoption. So same thing for ITU, we need not do that exercise. ITU standards, we simply, worldwide, they are worldwide accepted standards. So ITU standards, they remain as it is. Adopted standards also, when we adopt, approved by general body, and they are sent to the TEC for adoption. Next slide, please. This is a post-standard thing. This is generally outside TSDSI again, but TSDSI has a role, for example, to evangelize any standard which it creates. And so that people know what a standard is, there are any queries or something, or any comments coming for improvement standards. All that is a feedback system which happens based on the implementation of a standard. And as we see, standards are not something very static. Once you release, you will find that there are some issues in implementation, or there are some errors which have come inadvertently into the standard, or there are some new use cases and new requirements which should need to be included. So all that feedback comes from the post-standard activity when the equipment is manufactured or it is deployed in the field, and that feedback again comes into the form of a NIP or a CR or the change request into the study group, and then again the standard is modified. You keep on creating new versions. So that is how the standard creation and a feedback system from implementation that happens. Next slide, please. So from all this, what we see is that we told that we have membership from the entire ecosystem of digital domain or ICT domain. We have government also our member. Then we have academia and research institution our member. So there is a need of a platform where people, instead of working in isolation, they come together, exchange ideas, and they say where the synergy, and then they work together. So this diagram is simply indicative that the wheels which can be moving in different directions, they just come together, sit on one platform, and they move in a synchronized manner in the same direction, so that an output which is called a standard or a study which comes out. So TSDSI is a platform to collaborate and positively collaborate in a way that we are able to produce value out of people's research into areas, or to meet the requirements of the market for different use cases. Next slide, please. Yeah. So because we are talking of the global standards, so how does whatever number of slides which we shown, if we try to make an inference, how do we are making contribution to the global standards, or enabling our members or the community in India to go to the global standards bodies, is that we have agreement, as we said, with IEEE and ATSC, and more can happen for adoption. We are partners of 3GPP 1M2M, and we contribute to the ITU for standards. For example, the currently 6G or IMD 2030 framework document, which was just finalized. So TSDSI did make contribution to that. We also made contribution for 100 gigahertz or the sub-gigahertz band studies there. And future technology trends in ITU, that also TSDSI contributed. So in every domain, every members which are there, so our membership, they work in study groups, they take contributions to ITU, they take contributions to 3GPP 1M2M. For 3GPP 1M2M, it's not necessary that they come to TSDSI, but by virtue of being a member of TSDSI, they have opportunity to be IM there and contribute there. So, but it is also sometimes necessary, if it is felt by member that an idea should mature within the SDO or the organization, they do bring proposal and then take it to the 3GPP. So this is how TSDSI is an essential enabler for India for global standards. Next slide, please. We talked about roadmap briefly. So roadmap, what it is and how it is created. So we first created a roadmap 1.0 from 2018 to 20 for 3-year calendar year horizon. So we had some 11 items, and we saw that around 7 items actually matured into the study group in some study reports. Next slide, please. Roadmap 2.0, it is applicable till December 23. So after taking public consultation, inviting lots of industry and academia and other people from outside TSDSI, so these are the number of domains which you see in which we have categorized the items which were suggested and our members agreed that standardization will be done. And you see that here on 6G technologies, almost every item we have some study or standards work happening in TSDSI. And same thing on AI ML, things are happening, cloud is happening. So I am not going through the entire list, but wherever you see, almost 80% of this is already into our study groups. And now we are embarking upon the work on roadmap version 3.0, and probably we will have more advanced technologies inputs into the new roadmap. Next slide, please. So I mentioned about this. Next, please. And the roadmap, there may be a confusion sometimes that what roadmap is doing when study groups are also entering into standardization direct. So the roadmap rule is that whatever items are listed there, they are already agreed by members that they can do study or standards work in TSDSI. So on their convenience, the members who agreed to actually take up the work on the items which are listed there into study groups, they bring it to the study groups. The roadmap itself is not a prescriptive roadmap for the TSDSI work, but then also gives a direction in which TSDSI members have agreed as a part of roadmap that they will work on that. But there are a number of other items which keep on coming to the study groups, and work happens on that also. Next slide, please. So TSDSI journey so far, it is, I think, two small letters here. But what we say is that from 2014, when we just started, and we took baby steps in different directions. So first achievements were that we became 3GPP members, 1M2M members, then ITU sector member. Our contribution started growing. We did 5GI standard, which is an extension of 3GPP 5G, which later got merged into 3GPP standard. And currently we are working on 6G as well. So, and we have a growing membership. I think currently we have about 100 plus members on our list, and they are growing. Next slide, please. So this is a detailed TOR of SGN. I will not go through into detail. You can see it in the presentations. It lists everything, and that means it's very generic, but it covers all the items on the network side on all domains of telecom. And please don't carry the impression that we work only on wireless systems. We have our scope systems on anything on telecom, whether it's wireline, optical fiber, satellite communication, or wireless, whatever, everything is covered. And gradually we are going into other domains. There was one standard on CPRI front haul, which we did about 4 years back, which was basically on optical fiber, the mapping of payload into MPLS for CPRI. Next slide, please. These are some focus areas. We talked about these technologies. So we are focusing currently on 6G, 5G enhancements, because 3GPP is also working on 5G advanced. Then broadcast broadband convergence. We have some reports already, and some standards work is going on. We did 6 gigahertz spectrum studies, 60 gigahertz spectrum studies, 100 gigahertz spectrum study item is also underway. And one item on unlicensed 6G applications interference compatibility study is on in the study group. Open systems, visible light communication, we have released the report, and we are expecting some standards work to start on that. And ITUR, we are continuously engaging and continue to engage. Next slide, please. So these are the names of some items on which studies are going on. Again, I will not go into read out everything, but if you see the categorization here, we have 6G items, 5G enhancements issues, open items, spectrums. So these are the studies which are the important things which we have done. There are others also, but these are currently active items which are here. Next slide, please. And similar is the list for the items where the standards are being proposed. So you see number of items on 6G, broadcast, wireless backhaul, and similarly on 5G enhancement open systems. Next slide, please. So this is a list of technical reports which have been released. So last report we released was in September 23, and before that in August and May 23 on IAB architecture, then 5G, 4G, 5G backhaul for rural broadband, and then FBS flying base station driven CRAN. So, and many more reports are in pipeline. Next slide, please. Yeah, here I hand over to Mr. Madan for talking about SDSI. No, please, kindly.
Thank you, Mr. Mittal. So far, we were discussing those items which are being done in the network study group. And we have now services and solutions. Obviously, it goes into services, applications, use cases, and which are requirements collection also for creation of networks, whether it is 4G, 5G, 6G now. So first we study the parameters, the requirements of the use cases, and create reports and standards, interworking standards, interoperable standards of various sectors, various applications types, various use cases, and so on. So this is what describes it in terms of reference of the group, which is very, very wide because new and new sectors and applications are joining this network. Earlier, the change is that earlier the networks used to provide some services based on capacity and capability of those services. And now the services are defining what type of networks, network slices, and what types of configuration of network is required by those services and all that. That's a dramatic change. Next slide, please. So we have 3 working groups in this study group. Working group 1, working group 2, working group 3. Working group 1 works on security and other relations requirements. Working group 2 works on applications, which are application and use cases. And working group 3 works on, for these applications, what should be the architecture of service provisioning in this case. Next slide, please. And they interwork with each other, like 3GPP, 1M, 2M. They have various working groups and study group at the top. And these are some of the areas where we are working on. So I will not go into details of that, but I can tell you that these areas are massive. Right from configuration of the networks, right from different sectors and use cases which are there in various verticals and so on. So next slide, please. So this is how Mr. Mittal enumerated the work items, study items, reports, standards, which are done by these study groups. So there is again list of SDSS, and he mentioned about SGN. So these are some of those cases. Next slide, please. Next, yeah. So you can see that it's very wide areas, various types of applications, various types of requirements, use cases, which are being contributed in the study group. Next slide, please. And some of these activities are going on. And sometimes what happens is we have some overlap areas between networks and service architectures and all that. Then we work together on some of those items to come out with reports and standards and so on. Next slide, please. So these are again some of the items which are there in the SDSS study group. And so we have at least about 25, 26 to 30 items which are going on in as studies. So whatever we produce as reports comes out of study item. Whatever is coming as standard comes out of the work item. So we have a complete mix of study and work items in SDSS. Next slide, please. I'm rushing through because we have next session also. Next, yeah. So these are some of the reports and all that we have published since 2019, when this group came into existence about 4 years ago after the network. So we started having study items also, and these are number of reports which were progressively made in this particular this thing. And reports at the end recommend that what are the next steps, and we send these reports to various departments, other players in the ecosystem, that this is a report, this is a recommendation, what are your comments about these reports, and how do we go about converting them reports into, as per the recommendations, into next steps as standards. So next slide, please. So these are some of the balance of reports and all that. So we produce almost two reports between two study group technical plenaries. That is, every quarter we have plenary, and in between we have working group meetings and all that. And these reports are deliberated, considered, and on the average it takes about 12 months to complete a report with recommendation how to go to the next step of having national standards and global contributions as well. Next slide, please. So this is the only statistics of reports and standards so far produced, developed, published by TSDSI, and also what are the contributions given outside, so 3GPP, 1M, 2M, and what are the things which have become national standards. So all these things of study items, published reports, published standards are available on the website. So you are encouraged not only to see the website, but also participate in these study groups to contribute more and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mittal and Mr. Madan, for giving that detailed overview of the activities at TSDSI and the processes we follow to develop standards. I also wanted to add, all the technical standards and reports published by TSDSI are available in the public domain. We also have a concept of a technology roadmap item proposal. So any item which is not yet being considered or is still fuzzy in the, we are not very clear about its scope, we try to convene a technology roadmap item proposal forum in which members and non-members can participate to try and discuss that particular topic and see if there is any need for a standard or a study. After which, if we crystallize that topic, it is then taken up formally in TSDSI as a formal technical activity. We have taken more than the time allocated for the TSDSI activities. This being a TSDSI conference, I think we could take that liberty. The next two topics for discussion in this session are about the global standards engagement, 3GPP, ITUR, ITUT, and 1M, 2M. So 3GPP and ITUR, Mr. Mittal will be talking about this engagement. Given the fact that most of the participants in the room and online would already be aware of ITU and 3GPP, may I request Mr. Mittal to kindly give the information slightly in brief. Mr. Mittal, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Bindu. Slides, please. So this presentation is comparatively bigger, that means compared to the time available. So I will rush through some of the slides by giving just essential information. Rest you can probably read through. So this is the content. Next slide, please. So 3GPP and its scope. So 3GPP, we briefly mentioned that this is a global body where the mobile standards which we use, they are generated, and it's a collaborative platform, and it started working from 3G onwards. That is why it's called 3GPP, but it did 4G also, 5G also, and next 6G, and maybe all Gs it will do. And so next slide, please. Some of the details are in the next slide. And it works on the principle of organizational partners. So 7 standards bodies like TSDSI, for example, HC, then HC from Europe, ATIS from US, ARIB from Japan and all. There are 7 such organizations who are organizational partners of 3GPP. And the people who, there is a scope, there is a contract which we have to sign for becoming an organizational partner. Next slide, please. And this is the list of organizational partners which we have. So if you see Japan, we have 2 and 1 each from rest of the 5 countries. Next, please. Individual members, we briefly mentioned about this in the previous presentation. So any member of TSDSI or all the OPs, as per their criteria, can become an IM of 3GPP by paying a fee. So that fee may differ from OP to OP, but so there is a total fee we have to pay to 3GPP. Out of that, amount is carved out how much the IMs will pay. So there is a system for that. People can be observers. Observers are those members who have a potential or they have a willingness at a later date to become 3GPP OPs. And guests are temporary IMs. That means people who want to see the working of 3GPP working groups. They can join for a short period, say about 3 months or so, and judge whether they want to actually go and become a member or not. Next slide, please. Then, next, please. I have covered this part. Next. There are also market representation partners, because what we discussed in the previous presentation, that standards have to meet the market requirements. It is not something, it's not a production of technology. It is creation of a technology to meet the market needs. It is a different thing that technology also creates market needs. It raises the demand for newer and newer services, but then ultimately standards are relating to market needs. So there are market representation partners. So there is a list here from market representation partners who are from different industry segments. From India, we have COI, we have Space Industry Association, SIA, and Broadband India Forum as 3 market representation partners. Next, please. Yeah, this is important to understand about 3GPP. If we understand this, probably not much is required to be said, at least for the purpose of this session. There is a PCG, Project Coordination Group, which monitors and controls the technical activity. Control is not a correct word, but then officially it may be controlled, but generally it is, they don't control the working study. The technical specifications group have full freedom of doing their work, but the overall planning aspects and standardization pathway is all approved by the PCG. So PCG meets every 2 times every year, and there are working technical specification group 3. One is the radio access part, TSG, RAN, radio access network. One is CT, core network and terminals, and SA is services and architecture part. And SA and RAN have 6 working group each, and CT has 4 working groups. Their names are given, and for example, RAN 1 works on layer 1, RAN 2 works on layer 2, and all that. So their names and their areas of work are given. The TSGs meet 4 times a year, once every quarter, March, June, September, and December. And they actually are the techno-administrative bodies who assign the work to working groups or remove the problems of working group and approve the output of the working groups as reports and specifications. So that is the role. And working groups, depending on the work given to them for a particular time domain or time horizon, they meet 6 to 8 times a year. Next slide, please. Yeah, one more thing I must say. Can you come back to the slide? So all these working groups and TSGs, they have, previous slide, please. So they have their elected body. That means chairs and vice chairs are elected every 2 years. Same thing, but PCG has election for the chair and vice chair by nomination every year. Next slide, please. So project coordination group responsibility we have given. We will not go into all bullets. Basically, they are the final approving authority of all the work output from the TSGs. That is more of a formality. Unless somebody has an objection, they simply approve it, and they they approve the elections. They monitor the activities on every time they meet. They monitor the activities and outcome of the TSG and working group meetings. Next slide. This mentioned. Next, please. Yeah, one important thing is that, can you go back? The technical specification groups, as we mentioned, that they may have participation ranging up to maybe 400 plus, and RAN 1 kind of group, which is the largest one, in one meeting of 1 week, they may handle as big as 1300 number of documents. So they have a very efficient and very organized way of handling these documents. And this is a monumental work which they do. They sit from morning to evening and carry out the work every meeting and after meeting. Next slide, please. So TSD RAN we explained. So it's a radio access network part which they do. The core part is done by the CT, but only the radio access network, transmission and reception and all radio protocols, that one work is done by RAN. Next slide, please. SA, we explained, this is doing the services and architecture part. 6 working groups, their names are given. Next slide, please. CT core network and terminals. Next slide. Now, process is important that 3GPP works normally on face-to-face. Actually, it didn't have the concept or almost nil concept of e-meetings, but COVID forced almost 3 years of or 2.5 years of complete obscuring on the face-to-face. They worked on e-meetings. Actually, one complete release, 17 came out of e-meetings. They never met physically, and release 17 was finalized electronically. And the work organization is, again, like we said for TSDSI, study items and work items, similar way. And they do work in 3 stages: requirements, they create requirement, create an architecture for that, and create protocol for that. So it is a high level thing, but SA also does that. SA doesn't do protocol work. SA does only normally the requirement and architecture work. But if it comes to RAN, they do their own, depending on what requirements are set for a release, then how they are translating to radio network, how the radio network will be architecture and all. So that is how they follow 3-stage process. 750 plus companies are involved. There are close to 800 companies now who participate in the deliberations. They have a track record of bringing out releases in earlier 15 months, now 18 to 24 months, depending on the work done. And work happens in a clock size. Precision is fast, that if they find that we are slipping in the schedule, they will drop some unimportant work. And only in rare cases, release time of any particular release has been extended. Next slide, please. Then, so they work in they call releases. So release 13, release 14. So every release has a targeted requirement and specification framework. Within that, they decide how much time is available and then decide the number of items which can be taken. They create features, and out of that, they create SIs and WIs, study items and work items. And then after this study items and work item work is completed, they are satisfied. Every quarter, this is monitored by the TSGs, and when the time comes, everything is scrutinized and seen that this is in order. There are no gaps. Then they do a release. For example, right now they are working on release 18 finalization, and release 19 work will start. Next slide. So this I will skip. This is more detail into the procedure of change request and other things. Next slide, please. So this is an example of a release, 3GPP release 17 and 18, because release 18 work is now going on. So if you see the yellow ones, the blocks, you will find that release 18 definition work started sometime in 2021, and then stage 2 of functional freeze will happen, and in the quarter 4. That means December, we will see that entire stage 3 freeze will be happening. Only after that, what they do, that they write ASN1 documentation, create for that, and do all some RAN 4 does some performance requirements. So that is delayed by 3 months. So final release of entire release, which is implementable, will happen in March 24. But by that time, release 19 work will start, because the release 19 specification requirements are being discussed. In December meeting, they will be frozen, and the working groups who have already done their release 18 work will start release 19 work right from the release from January onwards. And in fact, release 20 work also is also being discussed in SA now, because SA is the first one to start talking of requirements. So release 20 is also some initial discussions have started happening. Next slide, please. Now, we are talking about 3GPP. So what are the advantages of becoming a member? So first thing is, the big scene is that, okay, they are creating global standards for 3GPP, for mobile. So all innovation, research, everything is going into that standard. So naturally, everybody has a chance to monetize or potential to monetize their innovations by making them as a part of the standards. It's a big exercise. It is not easy to reach that stage, but it happens, and people are there. They are working for last 25 plus years on this. So there is a chance. Next slide, please. And then then what is important is that when you go there, you know how the standard system works. Because everybody is there for business. Everybody is there to monetize their innovation and also to see that how they manufacture and market and put their equipment in the market, which gives them revenue. So there is lots at stake. It is a collaborative work. No single individual can push his agenda. Lots of collaboration has this. There are success stories. There are failure stories. There are compromises which are made. But then it gives a chance for people to network, create synergies, have more connections and collaborations, not only domestic but international collaborations. So these are the advantages at high level. But really, if somebody goes and attends 3GP meeting, they will understand the heat and energy and synergy there. Next slide, please. IPR, we have told 3GPP doesn't have a IPR policy. It is governed by the OP's IPR policy. Next slide, please. We will not go into detail of this, but this is a process that how we actually start contributing. We create an account with on their website, and how do we submit. I think in the shortage of time, we will not go into detail of the actual submissions of contribution. Next slide, please. Yeah, next. So this is a detailed procedure. If somebody wants to contribute, they can read, and we can even discuss in a separate call how to contribute after becoming a member. Next slide. So this is the templates in which the documents are to be submitted. Next. So again, this is summary how the contribution is next. These are 5 steps. Next, please. Yeah. So this gives a overall scenario of 3GPP. 25 plus years it is working. It has given successful technologies 3G, 4G, 5G, and maybe release 21 onwards. It may start 6G work. Then more than 1.2K. Actually, this number is very small. It is much more than this number now. It is to be updated by 3GPP. But as I know, there may be now it's more than 10K standards specifications which are existing today, and lakhs of. It might have become millions of, member-driven technical contributions which have accumulated till now. Because now we saw last year about 92,000 contributions which came in 3GPP last year alone in calendar year, and they are growing. And 2,000 plus man years of contribution till now, 750 plus companies and 16 specification group, and this is expanding. So this is at a glance what is the size of 3GPP. Next, please. So this is Indian participation and contribution for this year till August. So there have been 85 meetings in till August. So our this is a cumulative figure of participation, 1424 all meetings, and total contributions from Indian IMs 3591 in these 9 months or 8 months. Next, please. These are important links. Next, please. So ITUR, I will talk about ITUR. Next, please. So before going to ITUR, we should first briefly know what is ITU. Many of you, or maybe most of you, will know. So it is a International Telecommunications Union, which is established almost 1865. Actually, it started as a telegraph union, and 1947 it came into existence as the International Telecommunication Union. It has 3 segments, 3 verticals. ITUR, as the name specifies, radio communication. T is for telecom standards, that means non-radio communication standards, and D is for developments. It talks about development in of telecommunications in underdeveloped or developing world, how ITU can assist them in standards and implementation of technologies. And they have a 4-year cycle of standards. That is, every 4 years they create questions and ideas in which area they will work, and that is governed by 3 main conferences. One is called WRC, World Radio Conference for ITUR, WTSA, World Telecom Standardization Conference Assembly for ITUT, and WTDC for World Telecom Development Council Conference for ITUD. So they decide the policies for these different segments together. Separately, they meet separately, they decide their own policies and programs. Next, please. Next, this is only a map of ITU regional offices. Next, please. Yeah, so this is the structure of ITU. So the highest body is plenipotentiary conference. So it is like a general body. As we talked in TSDSI, general body of consisting of all members. So plenipotentiary is all member states combined is when they meet every 4 years. They decide the overall policy of ITU applicable for all the three segments, ITUR, ITUT and ITUD. Overall policies, they work in the form of resolutions. And then the work in between two plenipotentiary conferences is carried out by council, ITU council. So it is like a governing council of ITU. They see the oversee the implementation of ITU policies. And then we have ITUR, ITUT and ITUD as we discussed. And there is a general secretariat which helps all the three. And they have their own secretariat as well. So general secretariat actually is for ITU council, and then each of these segments have their own councils. Next slide, please. ITUD, as I said, development. Next slide, please. ITUT, Mr. Madan will go into detail. This is a list of working groups, study groups in ITUT. Next, please. So ITUR has it has 6 study groups, 1, 3, 4, and the names are written: spectrum management, radio wave propagation, satellite services. Next slide. Then study group 5 on terrestrial, then broadcasting, and then science services. We will not read out what is written there, but as the name suggests, the scope is known by their name. Next, please. Yeah. So this is a typical study group structure in ITUR. So ITUR has, say, study group 1 to 7. It is just generically written. And we mostly participate in study group 5. So study group 5 works through 4 working parties: 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D. Similarly, other groups also have their working parties which report into study group 5. Their outcome goes into study group 5 and approved there. And for example, the IMT work or the terrestrial mobile work happens in working party 5D. So it has further distribution as general aspects, working group, and so many. So we will not go into details. So IMT 2020 of 5G came out of this, and IMT 2030 is also happening in work is happening in working party 5D. Next, please. So ITU memberships are different. So I will just name them: member states, then sector members. We are a sector member. Associate members who can go for specific working study group membership, and academia has a special provision or exemptions for membership, and they are exempted entities of certain kinds who don't have to pay fee and they have participation rights. Next slide, please. And in ITUR, we have been engaging for quite some time now because initially we were study group 5 associate members. So there what we have done, one is we did 5GI. We mentioned about 5GI earlier. So we did it in ITU. It was accepted. It is still listed as one of the technologies of IMT 2020. But later, last year, it was merged into release 17 of 3GPP. Then we have contributed to ITUR, Working Party 5D, for IMT 2030 framework document, future technology trends document, also for sub-gigahertz, sub-terahertz frequency studies. And we also transpose the 3GPP specifications for IMT Advanced, IMT 2020, because they keep on revising the standards in parallel to 3GPP's work. We transpose them and they become part of the ITU specifications as one of the transposing organizations. We are listed there, and our standards are also listed in the ITU recommendation, relevant, whatever name it is called, M2012 and M2050. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's all to ITUR. Mr. Madan for.
Thank you, Mr. Mittal. I'll now call upon Mr. Madan to give a brief on 1M2M and ITUT. Very briefly, sir.
I think Mr. Mittal has made my job very simple. He has spoken about ITU per se, and then he has spoken about ITUR and 3GPP. So I'll be speaking on ITUT and also on M2M. ITUT, next slide please. So this has got various study groups, as Mr. Mittal was mentioning. I've only put statistics here, what these study groups are doing. Study group 1, 2, 3, 4. There are up to 20 study groups. SG20 is the last study group. But in between, there are certain gaps also. part of study groups, and they're working on these areas which are mentioned here in this table. I know that this session is going to end on 3:25, so I'll run at that speed of 6G now. Next slide, please. So the study groups work on various future networks. They work on security. They work on circular economy. They work on these major areas of whatever. What is happening is ITUT is more global than 3GPP. 3GPP is limited to the members of 3GPP, but ITU, per definition, is doing global activities. So they have study groups, they have focus groups on various subjects, and they have networks, they have cloud, they have future networks, they have security, they have IoT. Such groups are part of study groups of ITUT. Yeah, next slide, please. So these are once again some of the remaining study groups of ITUT. So they range from SG1 to SG20, where there are various meetings of study groups, and after these study groups make their recommendations, then basically these specifications are released as recommendations of ITUT, which are there since perhaps when I was there, ITUT, when I was in professional activities at CDOT or TRC or TEC. ITU organization has been running from those days itself. Next slide, please. So these are some of the focus groups. So what happens is these study groups, they give some typical work to focus groups, which do not really come out as a specification or sometimes as a recommendation, but they are working for the study groups, and these focus groups on various subjects give their reports to SGs, and SGs take forward the work which is done by these focus groups. Our members are participating in these focus groups as well as study groups. We are a sector member of ITUT, while the national member or member per se is DOT, and TEC is also working a lot on various study groups, and they have shadow groups in TEC where they work on specifications of study groups and all that. But we also, being sector member, we work on these areas. Some of these things we can send directly, and some of these things we send to TEC through the various national working groups and all that. So some of the focus groups we work directly also. Next slide, please. So we'll see various subjects as artificial intelligence, quantum, and disaster management systems, and so on. So these study groups basically produce specifications, while focus group produces work to be done by study groups and all that, or part of the work done they take as focus groups or focus areas and all that. Next slide, please. So as we have WRC, we have WTSA, and it is World Telecommunication Standards Assembly, where resolutions are passed for 4 years, next 4 years. What are the work areas on which the study group should work? So fortunately, in 2024, we are hosting WTSA meeting, and the recommendations of WTSA or resolutions of those WTSA who give recommendations as part of resolutions that the study groups should now focus on these areas for next 4 years. Study groups, what are the pending works still with study groups? What are the new areas which study groups should take and all that? That's a job of top body of WTSA. And India is hosting in end of 2024 WTSA. These recommendations or these resolutions of WTSA will be valid for next 4 years, that is up to 2028. And we have formed a task force at TSDSI. This task force will work on various resolutions, various subject areas, future areas, ongoing areas, and new technology areas. And these WTSA resolutions we will compile from our members of TSDSI, and pass it on to TEC, who's coordinating all these resolutions, and they will be handing over these resolutions to ITUT, WTSA. And WTSA also refers to Asia Pacific Telecommunity in our region, and the resolutions are shared with APT as well as TEC, and we'll be compiling it from our member side to the task force of WTSA. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. Now I'll go to 1M2M. So I'm just spending 2 minutes on each. 1M2M, please. Next slide. 1M2M is basically a middle layer sitting between applications, use cases, and on the top and on the bottom, we have transport layers and telecom layers. So it is a software basically with 15, 16 functions of abstraction, security, detection, interaction, workflow. So all the IoT and M2M end-to-end are connected in a manner where the software workflow is defined by 1M2M, which is technology agnostic of all the transport layers below that, and use case and application agnostic on the top, so that the users from end to end do not bother about what is happening inside the software. They do their job of utilities, applications, verticals, and sectors, and this offers a middle layer workflow of such layered structure and all that. Next slide, please. So, like 3GPP, we are also partner SDO of 1M2M, and so what is happening is the horizontal workflow. Next slide, please click on the next. No, you come. Yeah. So what happens is the proprietary solutions, the solutions which are use cases, applications, IoT devices and all that, instead of vertically getting connected to the transport system and the communication systems, this workflow helps to have a middle layer, which middle layer of software, which on one end, on the upper layer, it connects the applications. On the bottom layer, it connects the transport and transmission systems and communication systems, so that they become technology agnostic for transport layer, and application APIs agnostic for the applications and actual applications and all that. So it's some sort, it has gateways, it has got end-to-end systems, and the software which is defined as a middle layer is the work of an M2M for IoT and machine-to-machine communication. Next slide, please. So these are some of the functions which are handled by abstraction function, security function, transfer function, discovery function, registration function. These are handled by the middle layer of 1M2M. Next slide, please. So this is how the organization is. Mr. Mittal described about 3GPP organization. This is, no, previous slide, please. Previous slide. So this is the organization. There are 3 working groups in 1M2M, and and all working groups report to the technical plenary, and technical plenary and working groups in turn are part of steering committee of 1M2M. Next slide, please. So these, so far, there are 4 releases of 1M2M, and these are the features. We can say that systems are becoming more interworkable, interoperable, and also they are becoming much more open systems, so that you can add as many as applications and use cases on this utility side, and as many as transport systems on the communication side and all that. And these are 4 releases so far, and we have TSDSI has released transpose 3 releases so far, and 4th release, as soon as it will be available, we'll transpose this. The 3 releases have been passed on to TSDSI for making it national standard, and now we have 3 releases as national standards of IoT and M2M released by TEC. And 4th release will be we'll be transposing in another 6 months or so. And now all the work which is going on at 1M2M is release 5. Next slide, please. So release 5 is becoming more and more open and more technology agnostic as a software layer. Next slide, please. So TSDSI is not only contributing to various working groups of 1M2M, but also TSDSI is doing some secretarial support, not only secretarial support, but technical support it is providing. And so far, we have been able to provide members, free members for our IMs, because we did not charge, TSDSI does not charge any fee. Instead, the secretariat and some technical divisions work for an M2M, which compensates for the fee structure of the members. So we have about 58 members from TSDSI as IMs. Next slide, please. So these are all contributions which we have given to 1M2M, and CDOT has been a major contributor to 1M2M, national, international, global specifications and all that. Next slide, please. So this is how we are engaged, and we are contributing to release 5 now, and we are providing secretarial and technical support to 1M2M. We have some positions also in 1M2M. We have marketing, Ms. Bindu, who is here. She is the marketing Marcom head at 1M2M. We have positions in working groups, and we have positions in steering committee of 1M2M. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. That's my representation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Madan. When we were designing this session, we thought that probably we'll need 2 hours to explain in detail about the processes being followed at TSDSI, 3GPP and ITU and 1M2M. But we didn't want to really digress from the conference topics, and we tried to condense it to just 1 hour, 20 minutes. And I realized it was a very less time. However, the more details about the TSDSI, how we work, are available in the conference tool, in the both on the exhibit booth and on our website. You may like to go through the details over there. With this, we come to the end of this particular session, giving you an overview of TSDSI and the standards, global standards forums. I would like to thank Mr. Mittal, Mr. Madan, and Mr. Pathak for having given this overview. And with that, we close the session. The online participants, we will reconvene at 3:45 p.m. for the conference team session. And for the people who are with us in the room, there's a short tea break. Please do join back at 3:45 p.m. See you then. Thank you.